Let's talk about storytelling and how managers can use storytelling to help improve their communication. And while I do that, I'll try not to kill myself walking across these rocks. So I'll start with a bit of a story to begin with. Years ago, I had a chance to travel to Australia after university, and I flew into Melbourne, and I was trying to figure out where I needed to stay. So I looked through my guidebook and figured out what my options were, got on my bicycle because I'd brought my bicycle and all the bags and so forth with me, and rode down to the waterfront to get to where I needed to go, which was a place called St. Kilda. It's kind of on the eastern side of Melbourne, kind of like a suburb. And I was faced with a choice. I got to a T-junction at the ocean. So ahead of me was nothing but water. So much like the view that you have right now. Now I had two options to me, and I was faced with a choice. Do I go to St. Kilda and follow the plan that I'd set out for myself, or do I take the path unknown? Because in front of me was a sign that said Spirit of Tasmania, which is the ferry that leaves from Melbourne, or it did at the time, straight across to the island of Tasmania, which I didn't have any plans to go to. I'd only just arrived in the country, but here was an opportunity to go somewhere I'd never been before. And I was faced with a real choice. And because I was traveling alone, I didn't have any expectations. There's no one there to tell me I could do one or the other. There was no one to say one is right or one is wrong, one is better, one is worse. And for the first time in my life, I had a real choice. Do I follow the plan and all the expectations and all the things that I had set out for myself, or do I go into the unknown and take a different route? I chose to take the path less traveled. And in that moment, I learned several things. One is that I had agency, that I had control over my life, that I could actually do something outside of the expectations of the rest of society, out of the expectations of my family, my friends, all of that. I could make a choice, a real choice in my life. And two, what did I choose? I chose to take the path that led to adventure, that led to unknown and doing something different. And for me, this is a story of inspiration. This is a story of choice. This is a story of agency. And now I'm about to climb through a bush, so bear with me. So when it comes to storytelling is important because it can convey an experience, can convey an emotional experience of an individual, and it allows everyone to share in that emotion. Stories also have the ability to bring a community together because you can communicate common ideas, common values, common shared stories, shared histories that everyone can get around and say, yeah, I'm part of that group. Stories are also good at communicating lessons, helping people frame the ideas in their mind more effectively. Because when you think about it, we've been telling each other stories for countless thousands of years to teach the next generation what is important to us. So naturally, stories work really well to help communicate those ideas. And finally, stories are also great at inspiration. They can paint a picture of what is possible, things that we never had considered before. And now we have an opportunity to do that. We've heard a story of somebody doing that. Maybe we can do that ourselves. So here's a very simple story structure that you can use to help enhance your communication. I learned this from Casey Neistat, who's a famous YouTuber. He laid out a 3-step story structure. First, you start with describing the situation, the scenario. Where are you at? What's going on? Then you need to describe the conflict. What is the challenge? What does the character need to overcome? What are the obstacles they need to overcome? And then finally, you need to have a resolution. What was the lesson learned? How did it all turn out? What was the outcome? These 3 pieces are critical in telling a good, simple story. So in my story, what was the setup? I was traveling in Australia, trying to find out where I needed to stay, and I was given a choice, go left or right. That was the challenge. Do I follow the same path I've always followed, or do I do something different? The resolution was, I chose something different and taught myself that I had the ability to make those choices. That was my story structure. You can use the same technique to build your own stories and help communicate more impactful messages to your team. So my challenge to you is to go out and start telling stories. Start looking at your own life and figuring out what are the stories that have relevance to the work that needs to be done. What are the stories in this group, this team, that are useful to tell so that everyone can get on board with the message? I want to challenge you to go out and start telling those stories. And let me know how it goes in the comments. So until next time, let's get to work.